got less than 104 slides, so this will be somewhat quicker. Go ahead. The law requires the board every 10 years actually in this year to redistrict the county, and that's by virtue of the fact that we have magisterial districts and vote for board members by district. That those redistricting is to basically create 5 districts that are, quote, equal in population, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means, but those changes have to be based on the census, and as the board's aware, the census got backed up significantly this year. When this presentation, we would normally probably give to you in December or at the latest in January, and we would usually have numbers from census in January. We know now that we're not going to see those until mid-August, so we're backed up quite a bit. I'm still fairly confident that we can get through this in this year. So there are the magisterial district changes, and then there's also the voting precincts. So there are 2 different decisions that the board has to make in this year. And by the way, when I say the law requires it, this is actually a Virginia Constitution requirement. So it's actually contained in the Constitution of Virginia. So those are the two things that have to happen, both the districts and the voting precincts. From a district standpoint, there are rules on how you redistrict. One is that all the property within a district has to be contiguous, has to touch each other. And go to the next slide, just for as a nearby state. This is Maryland's 3rd congressional district.
It looks like a snake.
It does. Oddly enough, it actually is contiguous. There are tiny little pathways that connect all the various sections of that district. However, there's another rule which it has to be compact, and compact means as close to a circle or square as you can get. That never happens unless you're in Utah. But you try to at least be as compact as possible. And that actually, what you're looking at is Texas's district that was upheld as being compact, even though it does not look like anything like a circle or a square. Our districts in Chesterfield are much closer to the mark and more than meet the standards for both contiguity and compactness. And then there are a couple other rules. The actual boundaries have to be clearly observable boundaries. So that's generally streets, rivers, streams, and other permanent features that you find on the map. But the next is the goal that we are after, and that is the goal is always equal population. That is what we're always trying to get to. We don't always achieve it, and there can be a maximum deviation between the most populous and the least populous district of 5%. But it should be less than 5% spread between the most and the least populous district. We always trying to achieve equality. You can never get there. It's virtually impossible to get there, but that's certainly the goal. There are 2. Well, this is actually where I guess you could call it our starting point. This is your current districts. So this is where all redistricting maps, suggestions, possibilities, ideas will all emanate from where we currently are, and that's our current status. And you all know your own districts well. In redrawing districting, there are 2 racial issues that compete with each other. Okay, and I say that one is a state concept, one is a federal concept, but they are in competition with each other, and that's the notion of packing and cracking by race. And so if you concentrate a racial minority within a certain district or majority in a certain district, in order to remove the ability to influence voting in surrounding districts. That's known as packing. Okay, and so we're always looking at whether at how we are diluting voting, or there is the cracking notion, which is breaking up an existing effective voting block, so that it can basically waters down the vote, makes it less likely that they can achieve voting as a block. So those are the two concepts. They are in competition with each other, and we're mindful of both of those all the way through the redistricting process. Okay, this is derived from some planning data. This is not, I'm not representing this at all to be an accurate snapshot of what the census is going to do. We do not know. And again, August 16th is the date that we're supposed to get the census data in what they, in sort of the old format. There's a newer format, but we will have usable data August 16th. Which is a little faster than we thought even a month ago. So that's at least one tiny bit of good news. But this gives you a concept at least of where we think the trends are, and that is, as everyone knows, everyone has grown, but at somewhat different rates. The growth rates in Bermudadale and Matoka have been actually relatively similar. Just a percentage point really difference between them. Clover Hill has grown at the least, and Matoka next least. So what this means to you all, as you all are perceiving how you might want to come up with the ultimate magisterial district lines, this means Clover Hill will invariably have to gain some territory in order to increase its population. Likewise, Midlothian will as well. So those are the two that will take on some territory in order to make the population equate. So to give you an idea, the variance, if you take those former numbers and look at the variance numbers, it's the fact that Bermuda is at 3.9% variance from the average, and that Clover Hill is minus 3.3. That is the greater than 5% variance. That's the reason why we know we have to go through an exercise, that we can't continue on the way we are. So that's the reason why we are going through this at all. To give you an idea just on the challenges, one is that we don't even get the data, and it will be in what they call the legacy format, which is an older format, still usable. We intend to start this process running at full speed on August 16th. The new data format will come out the end of September, but the data will be the same. Numbers will be the same. It's just how it's reported. We're ready to take the data in either format and start using it. There is one little twist this year, and that is Division of Legislative Services under new legislation has to adjust that data to reflect the prison population allocation, and this is a new law which says you allocate the prison population back to their home jurisdictions. So the inmates' home jurisdictions will actually reflect those inmates' residence where their home is. That'll take 30 days. It has to be done within 30 days, but that's not going to be a big change in the numbers for Chesterfield. So we're pretty confident that we can get started in looking at how to redistrict the county without having to wait a full 30 days to get moving. One of the other challenges, and right now I would say it's anybody's guess on how this will work, but the State Redistricting Commission is at work right now, and they're already holding meetings throughout the state on what the congressional state districts will look like. But we don't think that they're going to be ready to be actually go before the General Assembly until November at the earliest. and that might even be optimistic. There's going to be a special session of the General Assembly in October. Don't know what's going to happen, but they're going to be concentrating in October on redistricting, state redistricting. My guess is that they'll look at local issues at the same time. That's at least my best guess right now. So how that'll affect the timing, I don't know. So the process that we would follow, there actually are two processes that are driven by the new state voting, what I call the Voting Rights Act, the new state equivalent to what we used to deal with on the federal level, which was struck down as unconstitutional. And interestingly, it was struck down as unconstitutional because the Supreme Court ruled that's a state function, not a federal function. And so the state of Virginia has now picked up that function of reviewing voting-related decisions, local voter-related decisions on a state level, in particular on racially based, I think, examination. I think will be a large part of it. But there are two processes. One, and I'm going to go over these very quickly. One is actually going through the general process of looking at possible redistricting plans, talking to the public about them in community meetings, and then holding a public hearing on an ultimate plan. Under the first type of process, then that plan goes to the Attorney General, and the Attorney General has 60 days to, quote, certify the plan, or not certify it and send it back for further work. There is another process that does not involve the Attorney General, but it is a little more elaborate in how you hold a public comment period, public meetings, public hearings, and then if there's any change to the plan, you start all over again and start holding new comment periods and new public hearings. So we'll be ready in August to sort of be able to tell you by the August meeting where we think we ought to be going in that direction, okay, which plan may work the best for the county. So anyway, well, those two are available plans. Just really quickly, we've got, we had the June 8th elections. The November 2nd elections will actually be done under existing magisterial districts and existing voting precincts. Then there'll be primary elections in June, and in November 8th, we would be having, 2022, we'd be having our local referenda elections. So we're hoping to be long past redistricting by that time. So quick timeline, getting the data in August and the more up-to-date format in September. DLS will start adjusting census, but we will start the redistricting process in August, and that really will be very much a communication between board members to begin with. And we will be setting up with your guidance and input, setting up a community meeting schedule so the community can take a look at various plans that you all may be looking at. We can set public hearing dates, and the thought right now is that in November to December, we actually should be in a position to be able to hold a public hearing on a redistricting plan. And that will necessitate a lot of positive things happening, but I feel right now that we can get that done. If we use the Attorney General process, then we would be sending that decision out for certification, and then the state and congressional line drawing will occur. And what that will do is it won't affect the magisterial districts that you set up, but it may well split voting precincts. And so we would be coming back to you doing what the board just did actually in June, but there will be more districts than just one, I guarantee it. We'll be back to you on how we adjust if those state and congressional lines actually split precincts on exactly how to unsplit them. It used to be that you did not have to unsplit a split precinct, but the recent legislation by the General Assembly now mandates that you have to unsplit a district that the state splits. So we would do that. That also has this same sort of pre-clearance, this same Voting Rights Act process. We'd still have to go to the General Assembly on those precinct splits. But the hope is that all that will be done, and by the June 21st elections, that we may be able to do that with the new districts. Again, a lot's going to happen with the General Assembly in October, and we're not really sure quite where they're going to go with that. And that's it. That's all I have. That's a kind of a quick overview of
Any
the
questions or
process.
comments, board members, regarding this process?
One, Mr. Chairman, and so for purposes of public feedback and comment, I'm sure that members of the public realize they can start, at least to some degree, talking to us, at least informally or formally, about district lines, what they would like to see, and then we're also going to have a formalized process as well to accept that feedback. And I just
Correct.
want to make sure that people are aware of that.
Right, that would all happen. We have now this good portal system that we set up during COVID. There are ways to communicate that way. There are ways to communicate verbally with you all. There are community meetings would be a part of the plan. So there would be all sorts of different ways for there to be input. But certainly you all interacting with your own citizens is an important part of that, and interacting between yourselves.
Yeah, and you mentioned approximately November, December community meetings in this regard.
Yeah, I would think that community meetings would probably occur somewhere in the October, November range.
October,
Yeah.
November?
Would be
Okay, versus
my guess,
December.
somewhere in
Okay.
that.
All right, thank you.